All right. Today, you are going to find out why TikTok and Instagram must be a part of your marketing in 2023. And my friend Kyle Elliott is going to help us create 45 pieces of content in 5 minutes. And this can even be used for email marketing. So don't go away, even if you don't use video. But first, Kyle, tell us a little bit about yourself and how the heck you got so good at social media marketing.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Firstly, I want to thank you for inviting me on. It's absolutely a pleasure. Secondly, it all got started back in late 2020. I had an early mentor. His name was Brendan Cox, and I was just a entrepreneurial kid looking to get started. And I asked him for guidance because he had already been there, done that with a lot of that stuff. And he recommended that I hop on TikTok and start learning how to do short form content, which was probably the best decision I ever made when it came to the entrepreneurial path. So I actually started off as an intern at his company called Business Blurb as just an unpaid content intern. So I made content for them. And I honestly didn't know too much about entrepreneurship or business, but I kind of got thrown into the fire with that, started doing business and entrepreneurial content with them.
What did you do in college? Did you take anything business related? Or you're like me and came from something totally unrelated?
Yeah, I didn't go to college. So
Oh, cool.
Yeah, this was in high school. I was in high school when all this was going down.
Brilliant.
So yeah, I did that for a little bit. For the first 2 or 3 months, I think we went from 0 to like 130,000 followers.
On TikTok.
On TikTok for Business Blurb. And then from there, I kind of branched out, decided to build my personal brand on TikTok. Knew I wanted and could help people, and just decided I needed the credibility to do it. So push to 1 million followers first, hit that in October, and that was just on TikTok. And then, so since then, I've been coaching businesses and other creators how to use short form content to grow their business.
Cool. Well, we're going to do a deep dive into TikTok in a little bit, but first let's cover a couple of the classics that have been around for a long time. And we'll start with Instagram, which has been a long time moneymaker for us. But, I've actually hired you because it's time for a revamp. A lot of the static stuff that worked in years past, no longer working. So why should people, even if they've never used it, or if they feel like it's kind of dying off, why should people really give Instagram a hard look for 2023 in terms of generating leads?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because I think if you would have asked me that before the creation of Reels on Instagram, I would have said there's no reason to be on the platform. Wow. Reels kind of saved Instagram in a way, to where short form content is what's going on right now, and it's also the future. So everybody's content strategy on Instagram should be surrounded with Reels. The still photos, anything besides Reels is primarily just for your audience. But when it comes to growing, you will only grow if you adapt a short form content engine on Instagram.
And so what do you think? Like next year, we'll be down to like 2-second videos. Is that where this is all going?
Yeah, attention span is dropping dramatically. So who knows?
So before we dive deep into the video stuff, which is where you've helped us tremendously, let's talk about the bio. Because if somebody does like somebody's content, they, hopefully they're going to end up on the bio page. And, I think you have a couple hundred characters, you have a couple lines in there. What are some do's and don'ts for somebody's bio if they're selling anything, whether they're a real estate agent, whether they're a course creator, whether they're a coach, keeping those generally in mind? What should we have in our bio?
Yeah, so the bio should achieve 2 main problems, or 2 main things for people. Number one, it should tell people in a bite-sized kind of sentence or bullets what you do and who you are. And step number 2, it should give them a place to go or an action to take. So whether that's leading them to the DMs to have a conversation about a product or service you're selling, or a link that they can visit to go further, you need a second step for people to take. And as long as you can achieve those 2 things, you're fine.
What about what not to do? Like, I think you told me get the emojis out of there. And there was one other thing you told me to do, but I forget what it was. I think it was related to, just my name on there. So what are things not to do in the bio of Instagram?
Yeah. So in terms of the actual name, so you have your username, which is where it'll say real Craig Ballantyne or whatever your username is. And then you have the name section. For the name section, all of that is SEO. So a lot of the mistakes that I see people making is they'll put something like what their title is. So they'll put real estate agent as their name when really it should be their actual name, because when people are searching for you or something related, you want your name in there, because if you put something that's a bit more broad, that's not actually leading to any taps, any clicks. So you want to make sure that your name is super clear cut. So it's either your name dash what you do or just your name. You want to keep it simple there. And then, like you said, you don't want to clog up your bio with tons of emojis. And then the third thing, and this is probably the most common, is you don't want it to be too salesy. So you don't want 2 calls to action. So I see a lot of people, they'll have DM me a word. So they'll in their bio, DM me this word. And then they also say, click this link for more. And to be honest, as humans, we're just not very complex, very simple. So just giving people one step is really key for the call to action in the Instagram bio.
Got it. And what do you see as like really working for good calls to action? Like just, DM me a phrase for XYZ, or click on this link to apply for something. What particular, do your clients tend to use?
Chat is definitely what's working across all social platforms, but especially Instagram is chat. If you can lead people into the DMs, form a connection, and then have them take some sort of step like filling out an application, booking a call, there's much less friction in that sales process than having people just cold hit your page and fill out an application form. So chat.
So how does that look? What do you say? Like send?
Yeah. So typically,
like send me a DM like to start the chat, or is that?
Yeah. So typically typically you want them to DM you a certain word, because even send me a DM is a bit broad. Like, cause some people are like, oh, what do I say? I don't want to come off a certain way and I'm worried what they'll think of me. So if you are very direct,
well, I think some people don't even know what DM means.
Yeah, right. Sometimes you'll have that. But that's why for me, although I don't like to fill it up with emojis, I tell a lot of my clients, just put the little inbox icon beside it. So it's pretty self-explanatory, or just send me, and then in quotations, the word you want them to send that basically initiates the conversation is what's working best.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. So bio is covered there. Tell people who you are, what you do, and then the action to take. And so I've kind of got, that I coach entrepreneurs to make more money, get more done, and to DM me the word millions, and that we've tried a few things, Kyle, and that definitely, when I took that away and had people clicking a link, definitely our leads dropped, and getting the millions back in was helpful. So now let's dive into the meat of Instagram. Let's talk about the short form content. And actually, why don't you take us through the evolution of video on Instagram? So when I started Instagram, it was, they had the option of the 1 minute content piece. And then Instagram TV came along, and it was kind of ineffective for a long time until about 2019. I remember it was 2019, February, when I was at a Vince Del Monte mastermind, and I posted an Instagram TV video, and I was like, what the heck? This thing got, 5 times more views. I think normally I'd get like 500 or 1,000. I got 5,000 plus views on something. And there was about a year and a bit where Instagram TV was pushed, but I guess they found it to fail, because then it kind of stagnated. And then, like you said, they stole the idea of Reels from TikTok. So walk through like, why did all that stuff happen? And then what should we be doing in our Instagram Reels today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it all started with Vine a few years back, was really the first kind of adapter in short form content. And if I'm not wrong, I believe Vine did 6 seconds.
Yeah. So there you go. It was a 6. They were just they were too early.
They were just a little bit too early, and there was not enough of a scope of what you could do on there with only 6 seconds. But long story short, Vine goes away. They're banned off the App Store. TikTok comes along, and they're obviously a pioneer in the short form space. And then Instagram said, this is what's working. And if you notice the trends, this is what all the platforms do. As soon as one thing is working, they adapt and try to create their own spin-off of it. So once Reels came into the platform, what that ultimately did was just bring the attention back to content on Instagram, because attention span in humans is dropping dramatically. I think as of 2022, we have a shorter attention span than goldfish. And so not only just how you speak, but also in the visual, if you can keep people's attention, not only keep it, but grab it in the very first bit of the video, you're going to keep people's attention for not much longer, and they're actually going to hear what you have to say. Whereas with still images, the only way you were going to make any progress with that was if you could get people to read the caption, you write something super long in the caption, but that was just too much for people as social media evolved. And then, like you said, with IGTV, the thing with that was it was just a bit longer videos. And I think Reels was a good middle ground for that.
Okay. All right. So regardless about Instagram TV, it is a nothing, nobody posts those things anymore. And if anybody uses Instagram, you go on your explore pages, nothing but reel upon reel upon reel. And, I try, once in a while, I'll find somebody's profile, Kyle, and I'll try and figure out where they are posting something. And I can't tell because people don't really post. I don't think you can see a location. You only see the music that's in the reel. So, when it's a static post, a lot of people often tag a location. So you never have any idea where they're posting these things from. So let's dive deeper into the videos. How does one create a reel on Instagram specifically that gets a lot of views, that is purposeful for their business? We're not here to get, dancing views or, funny dog videos can, once in a while are okay, but on your profile, like once every 100 posts. But in order to build a business, what's the type of video that we should be making? How does it look? What are these, the best way to do these captions that you're seeing on so many things?
Yeah, so there's hundreds of different structures you can use, but the most simple one that I teach is, this was from Russell Brunson and just kind of took it into a short form way, was hook, story, offer. So you hook the viewer in, and then your story that can either act as an actual story, and I know we've talked about that, or it could just be some form of value, the actual beef of the content where people are getting value from you. And then in the last 3 to 5 seconds, some form of call to action. And that could be spoken, that could be check my bio for more, that could be DM me this word, comment this word, or that could be as simple as text popping up on the screen as a call to action, follow for more, click link in my bio, etc. But I think what most people do wrong is short form is very simple at its core. Really, all you need to do to be to be effective on short form is to speak into your camera and provide valuable information. You have so many people who are trying to go overboard and do super fancy stuff and all this overproduced stuff, where honestly, what's working the best is looking at your camera, providing good value in a short, bite-sized way that holds people's attention, and captions on the video so that people can follow along. Now, captions was actually something that has only been popularized really recently. You've seen people like Alex Hormozy have made it super, super popular, and everybody wants the captions now. And essentially what that does is it just gives people something to watch while they're listening. Because unless you're doing something super entertaining, like me and you just sitting here talking, right? It's not very visually appealing. But if you can throw,
speak for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Word blurbs and whatnot, that can really help keep people's attention.
Yeah. And also for those people who are not actually listening at all.
Right, exactly. So if you have it on mute, you can still follow along.
Yeah. So not everyone, but I get a lot of messages. What app do you use to create your captions? Because you've helped me with this, and we found somebody on Fiverr to do our captions for us. Now, I know Bedros Keuilian, my friend, who a lot of people listening know. He just uses the Instagram caption generator that anybody can get in their stories. And hats off to him, because he gets hundreds of thousands of views on his videos just using the Instagram caption generator. But if somebody wants the fancy captions like I have, like Alex Hormozy has, and Ryan Pinella and a lot of these other guys who were really getting a lot of views on their content. What are the technical details for doing that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think if you're doing it yourself, and I've done this a lot, you can just download the CapCut app in the App Store. Anybody should have access to that, and you can just import the fonts you'd like into that app. If you want it to be a bit more professional and you're good at editing, or you have an editor, typically you're going to use something like Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro. And then in terms of just getting the right font, what's working right now and that I've shared with you is, I believe it's Montserrat Black is the font that everybody's using and loving right now. And you can just download that app in any browser and import it into any one of those 3 softwares that I just mentioned.
So anybody listening to this, like me, whose brain is like boiling and just like, I don't even know how any of that would happen. Just get your high school age child to do it, or a college kid to do it, neighbor to do it. Anybody who's familiar with that stuff, a little bit of technical resource would be able to do it. And that's the beauty. And then, like I said, we found somebody on Fiverr, FIVERR.com, and they make our videos for like 10 or 15 bucks a video. And we get, so I film it and we outsource it to them. So all of this stuff, there's millions of people who can do this type of editing for you. So it's not to be done by you. If you are a serious entrepreneur, you are to film the video and the content and use Kyle's tips that we're about to talk about in a second to create great content, but you are not to edit and do the videos. That's not your job. So then, Kyle, what are the technical components that somebody needs for, we talked about the editing, we talked about caption generation. What about to make a good quality audio and video? Like, is it the phone? Is it a DSLR camera? What is it that we're going to need to make the best stuff possible?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because I really want to emphasize that you don't need something fancy. Like for me, for example, I have personally, for my own content, never used anything more than just an iPhone. Now you can go further and you can buy nicer cameras, like Sony has some good ones. And then in terms of mic, because I think audio.
What iPhone do you have?
I just have the iPhone 11. So I'm not even completely upgraded. And when I grew my social media following for the first 6 months, and this was 2 years ago, so it was still outdated then, I just had the iPhone 6 and I was still doing
impressive
crazy numbers. And it looked like it was filmed on a calculator, but it got the job done.
That's great, man. Hey, do you have any tips? I just got the iPhone 14. It's got like these 3 cameras on the back. Any way that I can maximize it? It has that cinematic option. Should I actually use that?
Yes, the cinematic option looks better than most cameras. And any one of my clients that have the iPhone 14, I would always advise you to use cinematic mode. I believe the 13 also has it.
Okay.
And that looks amazing. So it's not a must. Like I said, I have the 11 and it doesn't have cinematic mode, but if you have a phone that does, that's great. And it's honestly better than most cameras.
Yeah. So back when I was filming YouTube videos, when I just started 2007, so you would have been literally 5 years old when I put my first YouTube video up. I learned the hard way through the comments that people will tolerate quite a bit of stuff about how kind of janky and amateur a video looks, but they will not tolerate bad audio, like muffled audio, quiet audio, and they will not, if captions will kind of get you a little bit over that, but that and then bad lighting. So do you have any lighting tips for people other than simply just have, the light should be coming into your face and not having a lot of light behind you?
Yeah, so that's just it. Really the barrier of entry is just make sure the light's coming to you. So like I've used just handheld with my phone. I've stood in front of a window, stand outside, stand in front of the bathroom light. But for most of the people listening to this, what I would recommend you do, and you can do this on Amazon, probably as cheap as like 10 or 15 bucks. You just get a a ring light, which is essentially just this light it's shaped like a circle. You plug it in and you can put your phone in the middle of it like a stand, or you can just shine that in your face wherever you're recording. And that will give you a really good kind of really good lighting on the video, especially if you're in an area like me, like my living room or other areas of the house. It just doesn't look that good if you don't have something like that. And that's something that's not very expensive. Obviously, you could go above and beyond and get the really nice like softbox lighting, but that's not really necessary.
Yeah. So one thing I'll say is just, I'm sharing my screen right now. So if somebody's listening on the audio, you won't see this obviously, but one thing that I've got this nice pool in the backyard. And as long as I do the video after about 2:30 in the afternoon, then the light outside is good because it's not directly overhead. So the mistake I made a long time ago is I'd film at maybe 12 o'clock and you'd have a heavy shadow over your face. But around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the light is kind of coming in, more diagonal. And so it's not too bad. So that makes for good lighting. I think I used lights in some of the other videos up at the top there. The one at the gym there, I just used a window, the one that says, show me your friends. And I do have a fairly well lit room, but it really comes down to making sure that you don't have the light over your head. So don't film at noon. Photographers call the golden hour like the first hour of light in the morning and the last hour of light at night, because the sun is kind of coming horizontal on you. So every time my wife and I did a pregnancy photo shoot, like the photos behind us, that was always done either early in the morning or late at night, right before sunset. Last thing before we talk about these black reels, these text reels that are up here, Kyle, is audio. You recently sent me a couple of wireless lavalier recommendations. I bought 2 different ones because I shipped them to Canada and one's coming from the United States and I'm not sure if it's going to make it in time while I'm there. But what brand or budget are you recommending people for a microphone that can be used with their iPhone?
Yeah. So to be quite honest, I've never invested a crazy amount in any audio. I just have a $30 lavalier mic that I ordered off Amazon, probably drop shipped from somewhere in China. The barrier of entry for having good audio is not as high as you might think. So like the ones I sent you, like I sent for those of you listening, not watching, I sent over to Craig, just some that you can plug into your phone, where you can plug it into the bottom of your phone and then you have a wireless mic on your chest or wherever you'd like it. But then you can also just get the wired ones where they're plugging into the phone, get a super long cord and clip it onto the front of your shirt. Or even if you would prefer to just hold the little mic in front of you, that works as well. And the upgrade from just using the speaker or the audio from your phone versus investing under $50 if you really need to in a mic like that, the difference is huge.
Yeah, it's a tremendous, return on your investment. Now, last thing that we'll talk about on the reel side, just on the technical stuff before we get into the content piece, is these text reels that people will see on my screen right now, the white text on black background that are actually getting quite a few views compared to even some of my talking head videos. Why are people using these and how do people use them properly?
Yeah, that's a good question. This concept of content has been around for a while, of just kind of almost like tweet blurbs, but in photo form. But then with the rise of reels and short form content, we now call them text posts in the short form world. And essentially all it is for those of you listening, is text over a background. So there's no speaking, there's no sound. It's just text over a background, and you can do it like 3 to 6 seconds. And kind of the goal here is if you put enough text on the screen, people will have to loop your video several times to read all of the words on the screen. And then if it's done really well and they have to continue reading in the caption, they'll loop your video even more, reading all that's on the text post and then also all that's in the caption. And so why it works from like an algorithm technical side is the algorithm sees that these videos are being viewed several times over therefore being pushed to more people.
So 3 to 6 seconds is kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah, that's the sweet spot we've found on Instagram.
Okay. Awesome. Dude, that was really helpful. I didn't know that. That is good to know. So let's just, actually one more kind of technical question. Is there a best time to post? And is there a day of the week where you should definitely have content and where it's a waste of time? What's your opinion on that sort of stuff?
Days of the week, not a big deal. In terms of time of posting, the only huge tip is don't do it in the middle of the night, because most people in your region, in your area, are not on their phones in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And then I've kind of stuck to the strategy of just posting at kind of general time. So lunchtime, when a lot of people would be on their phones. If you're trying to reach middle schoolers or high schoolers, which I would guess most of the people listening to this are not, you'd post around 2 to 3 when they get out of school. But then for adults, anytime after 5 is going to be the best. But I do want to emphasize, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. I hear so many people saying that there's certain time slots that you need to post in to go viral. That is complete BS. Like, you can get by posting whenever, but if you are going to look into it, you want to space out your posts a little bit. So don't post them back to back to back, and then just post in the day when people are awake and on their phones.
And then obviously you've got so many different time zones. Someone like me, I do have a fairly global business, although most of it is concentrated in America. So even within America, you've got, what's 2 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock Eastern time zone, it's 2 o'clock Pacific. It's probably going to be the Eastern time zone because it's the first one to hit it. But, those things that's probably why you can't really count on that virality of a certain time of day. Now, the last thing is, if someone is really into Instagram and really into TikTok, how many posts per day?
Yeah, I think if you could get up 3 posts per day, you're in a good spot. Now, the barrier of entry is lower. If you can get to 1 a day, that's great. But we found what's a sweet spot, what's manageable, where you're still getting out quality content, is around 3 a day.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome, man. I'm still stuck on 2, but I find that like most of the time the second one doesn't do as well. Well, maybe we'll just have to play around with posting it much later in the day, unless it's a real kind of timely one. Our second one always underperforms the first one. So not sure on that, but that's something you and I can figure out as we work together. Before we jump into TikTok and the content creation, is there anything that you want to tell the audience about using short form content on YouTube? Because in the last, I don't know if it's been a full year, but definitely the last 6 months, so many people are just posting almost exclusively short form content on YouTube. Do you know why that is and how we can maximize it? And can it be the same video?
I lost you there. Hello?
Hey, did you hear my question?
No, I did not. You froze up in the middle of it.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you hear?
I heard you just basically say short form content, YouTube, and then.
Okay. All right. So let me just clap and we'll start there. All right, Kyle. So let's jump over to YouTube before we get to TikTok and just talk about why in the last 6 months, it seems like everybody who's serious about YouTube has transitioned to almost entirely, at least 80% of their content is now short form videos. And what is it that we need to know about using short form on YouTube? And can we just simply use the same videos that we put on Instagram?
Yeah, so I'll answer the first part of just kind of how it came to be. I think YouTube was another one that just kind of followed in the footsteps of short form is the future. And the reason it's been working for so many people, very similarly to the other platforms, is it takes a lot less commitment to watch a short form video. Therefore, you're going to get a lot more views. If you decide you're going to sit down for 10, 15, 20 minutes and watch a long form YouTube video, you're going to be a lot more selective. But on the short form platforms, or on the sections of these platforms where you can watch short videos, all you're doing is scrolling. So every single video has an opportunity to grab the attention of people and for them to stay and watch the entirety of it. So what a lot of people are using shorts for now is to actually funnel people into their long form content. So, oh, I've been watching Craig's shorts on YouTube for a while. Let me subscribe to his profile. They subscribe to you. They see, oh, Craig does long form stuff, which is obviously where the real value is. So I think that's the main reason that people have been pivoting that direction. And then remind me the second part of the question.
Yeah. So then can I just use my Instagram Reels on YouTube?
Yes. And that's a super powerful way of doing it, is cross posting all your content on the short platforms. One thing that is very important is that make sure when doing that, there's no watermark on the video. So meaning don't just directly save the video from Instagram and then post up to YouTube, because they will censor that video if there's any remnants of Instagram on the video. So just make sure you have the raw file of the content when you post it up.
Got it. Okay, perfect. So then let's now switch over to TikTok. And why on earth would any, quote unquote, serious business want to use TikTok?
Yeah. So this is kind of my forte in terms of what I do primarily and help people with, is TikTok. So I think for a long time, TikTok was just trying to get over the hurdle of, this isn't just a dancing app and this isn't just for kids. And so the early adopters in the business space reap the reward significantly. And now everybody's getting on. And the reason why it does so well is everybody is now on TikTok. There is no, my target audience isn't there, my clients aren't there, my people aren't there. I'm pretty sure the largest growing demographic on TikTok right now is 30 to 45-year-olds. And there's over 1 billion active users on the app. So to assume that your target audience isn't there is just no longer credible. So now that we've covered that everybody's on TikTok, the way that you kind of go about it is very similar to what we just discussed with Reels. You start up, you optimize your bio, and then I'm sure we'll get into the content here shortly. But I would say that most of the time, the clients that I've had that come to me and they're like, what is this short form stuff? They see most of their improvement on TikTok because it is still the leading source of short form content. And they actually passed Google, I believe it was earlier this year, as the most searched search engine in the world. Wow. So they've surpassed Google as the highest search engine. So more people are searching on TikTok than they are on Google, which 5 years ago would have been completely unheard of.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so bio on TikTok, does it differ from Instagram?
It's very similar. Instagram, really the only difference is Instagram is a bit more complex. You have more wiggle room to put more in there. Basically the same thing. Let people know who you are and tell them what they can do next.
Got it. Okay. All right. How do we figure out how to capitalize on trends? This is an Instagram question too, but mostly on TikTok. If you nail the right trend, if you get it at the right time, you can get a lot of views on your content. So how does one do that with a serious business, not the latest, music or voiceover or whatever, but how does one use that for a business to capitalize on that? And then if you do get one video that generates a lot of views, how do you make sure that you parlay that into more long-term success?
Yeah. So 2 good questions. Number one, I think when you're looking at it from a business perspective and you're not just following the silly sound and dance trends, the best way to do it is look at what's popular in the real world. Like what does everybody know about? What is everybody watching? What is everybody hearing about? And just applying that to your content. So for instance, the first half of 2022, every single person had either heard the name or knew who Andrew Tate was. Everybody knew who he was. And so if you, Craig, are posting a video about 3 productivity tips that can help people out in their in their daily lives. A much more effective hook would be 3 productivity tips that Andrew Tate hates. Now, obviously, there has to be some backing behind that, but you get the point. That is just, if you can incorporate anything that's trending in the real world and bring it into your content, that has a greater chance of going viral for you.
Yeah. And so I've, just to this point, I've used Elon Musk in a few videos, his name, something that he does. And some of those videos have gotten, 4 or 5 times the number of views that my other normal videos do. And then one of my friends, a guy named Frank Den Blanken, he has a massive following in Holland. So all his videos are in Dutch. But what he does is he just goes to Google Trends and finds the celebrity whose name is trending. And then he does a fitness video, like, 5 things that, John Cena does in his workouts, and makes a video around that and gets 500,000 views just because he's tapped into the celebrity that is trending. Now, he's not picking any celebrity name, but the actual one that if you go to Google Trends, what is trending majorly right now? Like right now, today as we speak, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie are probably trending for bad reason, because they're, divorcing, and, she's, saying that he's abusive. But if you're a marriage counselor or you're some type of relationship expert, you making a video today about how Angelina and Brad's relationship went sour, or how you could tell that, 3 tips you could tell that this, Angelina and Brad's marriage was going to crumble. That's not, it's kind of like ambulance chasing, I suppose, but it is that you're going to get a lot of views on that video. You have a greater chance of getting views on that video than just saying here, 3 ways to know if a relationship is going to fail. That's probably the most applicable answer I could give somebody today. Or, we're in football season, so almost anything about Tom Brady is also going to have Aaron Rodgers. Those names are going to really bring in your views.
Yeah, like you said, Google Trends is something we've used and that works very well. Another thing that you can do that's even easier than that is if you just search some sort of keyword in your niche on TikTok, what people are searching in regards to that niche will actually come up under, kind of like how it does in your search engine. And you can just see what people are searching. So if you search productivity, all these different results of what people are searching surrounding productivity will pop up kind of under like the recommended searches. And you can pull bits and pieces out of there that will also do very well for you.
Okay. And then even within that, even though some things are trending, like there are going to be some trends that are, quote unquote evergreen that have a lot of lifespan to it. So that's another way of doing that. Especially because I'm thinking, Kyle, that that I kind of batch things out way in advance. And so I'm not on, October 20th, waking up and thinking, well, what the heck? I'm going to go and make a video today based on a Google trend, because honestly, that video is not going to come out for 21 days because I'm so far ahead of things. So I guess that you could do it that way. You could look, and if you just monitored the trends and said, this thing comes up repeatedly, so I'll kind of bet on that.
Yeah. And actually a lot of the stuff with the recommended searches isn't based on recent stuff, because a lot of stuff regarding SEO is evergreen, like you alluded to. So a lot of those things are safe bets for what will work. Okay.
Differences between Instagram and TikTok in terms of what to do and what not to do around videos, captions. Are there any major differences that if someone was, for me, I'm putting the same video on both, and we'll talk about that in a second. But if somebody was like, I'm willing to go all in and do different videos for TikTok than I am on Instagram, if it's worth it, what are the things that somebody needs to know there?
To be completely honest, I think that would be a waste of time, because those 2 algorithms are so similar that putting in the same amount of effort that you would on one platform on another to make completely different content just wouldn't do as well for you.
Oh, great. Okay, good.
So that makes it easier for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So then when you're putting your video, so you film a video in TikTok for TikTok, or you film a video on your phone and your camera reel, and then you put it on TikTok and you put it on Instagram. Do you have to change the file in any way? Or is the only thing not to do, just don't put the TikTok logo on an Instagram video.
Yep, that's it. Just make sure that the TikTok watermark and the Instagram watermark are not on it. So the two softwares that I use, and they're on, anybody has access to them because it's just a website, is snaptik.app. So if you download a TikTok video or copy the link of a TikTok video and go to that website, that's snaptik.app, that will remove the watermark for you on a TikTok video. And then the same with Instagram. So this pretty much only applies to people who are recording their content inside of TikTok and inside of Instagram. Because if you're not, you have the raw file. But the other one is snapinsta.app. So snaptik.app and snapinsta. And that just removes the watermark for you so you can cross post.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's very helpful. Awesome. Is there anything else on TikTok, not on TikTok, but related to TikTok that you wanted to mention when it comes to, the creating and posting of videos there before we jump into how to create a lot of content?
Yeah, I think we covered most of it with the Reels section, and just we use the same exact framework for both. The one thing that is different is, and TikTok's working on this, but their chat system is not nearly as good as Instagram's. So using DM me this word in your bio or in the actual video itself, people that you don't follow can't DM you on TikTok. And so typically the only other way you can get around it is in your actual video, you can say, comment this word, and then people will comment whatever the word might be on that video, and you can reach out to them from there. Otherwise, you're just sending people to the link in your bio on TikTok.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Perfect. All right. So then let's jump over to creating content. And what you taught me, the way that I looked at it was that we were coming up with 45 ideas for content, and you could do this in about 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So the first part of the equation is 5 pillars. So why do people need 5 pillars for their content, and how the heck would they come up with 5 pillars? And you can kind of use what, we came up with in our brainstorming session as an example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So typically what I tell people, like you just alluded to, was when you're first starting out, figure out what your pillars are. And essentially what pillars are in your content is, if you took all of the content you've ever created, you want it to fall under one of these few umbrellas. You can have as little as 3, and you could go all the way up to 6 if you wanted. So for you, I believe we did morning routine, productivity, discipline, systems, leadership, and goals. Those were the 6 we used. And so do you want me to just go into the process?
Yeah. So, it seems pretty straightforward. And like if someone's a fitness expert, then they might do cardio, diet, body weight exercises, muscle building exercises, and then home workouts or something like that. Or maybe mindset is the 5th one.
Right. Yeah.
They just need to be that generic, right?
Very generic. So like you just said, that's a great example for the fitness coach. Is there's various things you can come up with, or for if you're doing, if you're me and you're a social media coach and you needed 3 pillars, you could do planning content, filming content, monetizing everything. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just once you break it down, you actually understand, like all the content I create falls under these few pillars. And then you just systematize it from there. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Is there anything else that we want to talk about the pillars, or now we can jump into the 3 styles of content pieces?
Yeah, I think that just about does it for pillars. So
yeah. So everybody think like, okay, I'm a funeral home director. So it's like, the showing and the visitation, like, okay, so you figure out what are the 5 pillars that you need to make your content around in your business, the things that you're the expert at. Now what Kyle has is you gave me 4 different ways, but I'm going to tell you that, like, let's forget about the value teaching one for right now, because it kind of overlaps. Let's focus on the three different subcategories of content now, or types of styles of content, I guess is what we call them, because now we're going 5 different pillars, and now there's 3 different styles of content. So this will get us to 15 different ideas. So what are those 3 styles?
Right. So once you have your pillars listed out, there's three main core types of content that you can make. The first one is lists. So 3 things you must do to X, 5 things you want to do to achieve X, right? It's pretty straightforward. And then you're just going to list out the 3 to 5 things. The other one is stories. So obviously you want to hook them in some way, but then you're telling a story. So if it's for you, like, and you're talking about something from your book, you could say, this is how I helped my client do X. And then you're just going to get into, in 2017, I did this for this guy, and you're just going to get into the story. And those typically tend to do the best. But then the third one is, and most people don't use this one, but it's super powerful, is some sort of polarizing take, opinion, like if it's, this is why
the contrarian angle that right. I use the term contrarian because, and sorry to cut you off there, Kyle, but if people look at my career has been built on polarizing contrarian ideas. When I was Kyle's age, I was selling a don't do cardio program because everybody back in the day was doing cardio to lose weight. And I was this fitness expert who had learned through experience and through research during my college years that you didn't need to do cardio to lose weight. Now, this is like a heretical, blasphemous type of statement in 1999, but I was saying it, and it really helped me stand out from the crowd. Then when we moved on into the perfect day formula years, I was telling people to, not do meditation and not do a bunch of things first thing in the morning, but actually work. And this is actually becoming more of a popular idea now because of a few people that are promoting it to just get up and go to work right away. But 2 or 3 years ago, it was totally counterintuitive. So contrarian, counterintuitive, polarizing. We get a lot of angry people who, in the cardio world. I had a person create a hate website against me. Like literally, it was like Craig Valentine is, a swearword.com. They literally had the domain name and had content on that because they were a marathon runner and they hated what I was saying. And same with the morning routine ads. We get a lot of hate about the beliefs that we have. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go out and start saying things to get people angry at you, but as Kyle will tell you, polarizing views are what stand out. Andrew Tate, he stood out a little too much, but Joe Rogan and it also goes for the other side too, on the, like Rachel Maddow and stuff like that. They're saying polarizing things, and, whether or not contributing to polarizing conversations is, helpful to society is another conversation you can have some other time, but we do want to help you get more views on your social media today. So talk a little bit more about that there, Kyle.
Yeah. So I think you kind of hit it on the head. Is that's what's going to kind of build your culture, right? So if you're just saying what everybody else is saying, you're not standing out, and people have no reason to become a die-hard fan of yours. So like you said, you'll have those hate comments, but then you'll also have the people, whether they're commenting or not, who agree with you a lot. And now you've formed a stronger connection with those people. So if you look at it in a micro way, you're creating diehard fans that could potentially become clients of yours. But then from a macro standpoint, the angry people are still watching your content, and the ones who are commenting, and while they're commenting, they're looping your video in the background. And so the good thing about polarizing takes and content like that is both sides. So whether you're a morning routine guy and you have a 12-step morning routine, or you believe that you should literally wake up out of bed and go get to work, both sides are watching, because you either love it and you just want to hear more of it because it's how you live, or you hate it and you can't wait to hear what Craig will say next that will get under your skin.
There you go. Perfect. So 5 pillars,
right?
And the 3 ways of doing it. Mm-hmm. And now to get to 45 pieces of content, just come up with 3 examples for each. So you could do this on a grid, or you could just do this in a Word document. And so basically, like, okay, what are 3 lists? For my morning routine, I could do 3 things never to do, 3 things Elon Musk does in the morning, and 3 things my dog does in the morning that will make you more productive. there are the three lists so fast, right?
Yeah.
And then the contrarian polarizing ones might be a little bit more difficult for you, especially if you're the type of person who doesn't like to get under people's skin. For some people, it's going to be super easy. And then the three stories, it's your story, success stories, a celebrity story, and away you go. And now you just do that for each one of those pillars, and you've got 45 different ideas there. And that's at least one for every day of the month. Not too hard to come up with. You do that, you increase that to 6, and now you got 90 pieces of content, and you could actually make 3 videos a day. Now, is there anything you want to say about that, Kyle, before we talk about the real magic of the video?
I do just want to say that when you're doing that, like you just said, it literally takes 5 minutes. If you just sit down and bang it all out, it takes 5 minutes to come up with 45 pieces of content. And then if you just go a little bit deeper, like I think on our brainstorm session with you thinking of content, like I think we got like 150 ideas. So, and if you're doing 2 a day, that's supplying you for a long time. I won't do the math on the spot, but that's
right.
for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
and, so for example, like one that came up in our team did a brainstorming session. Now, I haven't actually figured out how to do this one because it's very polarizing, and it's like, how do I say this? Because I'm not sure, I don't naturally believe this one, but one of our sales guys, Rusty, said, make a video called Why Smart Goals Are Stupid. And I was like, that's such a good hook, because most people are familiar with the concept of SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, something, I forget what the R is, and then trackable. It's like, oh man, how are SMART goals stupid? So I don't know how to make that one yet, but I did have another one that I actually just made. And it's a story one, and it was how I helped a fat guy run a marathon in 6 weeks. And this is a true story about my friend Bedros, and Bedros is posting all these pictures about how he used to be fat. So I can totally say this. And I did help him run a marathon in 6 weeks. I didn't give him the training program, but he was going to do it in 12 weeks. And he listened to me talk, and he said, I'm going to do it in 6 weeks. So, and then I did a training session with him too. So that's one that will definitely, the hope is that people will watch that one. Another one that I've been doing recently, and I didn't get as good of views on this, Kyle, because I think the audio wasn't great, but I'm going to do different versions of it, is why you should stop watching the NFL. And I'm a big believer that people should stop watching the NFL. I truly believe it. And yet the majority of Americans obviously watch the NFL, the National Football League, but I'm totally against it. And so it stands out. I do get a lot of angry people on that one. And the other thing, before we kind of leave the polarizing thing, is the number one polarizing message that I'm putting out these days is that people should stop smoking weed. And nobody gets angrier these days than somebody who smokes weed when they hear that. Like, it's irrational how angry people get when you tell them to stop smoking weed. They the justification come out. It's really fascinating human psychology. So if you can if you have a thick skin, you just learn so much about people's reactions to stuff that they don't like. And then the thing is I'm not actually trying to get those people as customers. I'm not actually trying to convince those people to stop smoking weed. What I'm trying to do is to get the people who believe that too, to go, oh, wow, I believe that. He said that. That's exactly right. I like this guy more than ever. That's the person I'm actually talking to, the person who doesn't smoke weed in the first place. But as you said, like, those are the people that are going to watch this as well.
Right. You just said it exactly right. So if you're just, you're dropping a controversial take that, a lot of people you're going after would probably believe, you're going to get that many more views, and it's not really going to matter because the people who are mad at you aren't your target audience anyway. So
yeah,
it's a win.
All right. So we've kind of foreshadowed at the real power of the video is from what you call the hook. And you really, really helped me in a filming session. So just as a side note, I did 28 reels in 90 minutes with a videographer, because I wanted to get really good audio, and I wanted to get really good lighting and really good camera. And instead of just me holding the phone, it gets a little tiresome, and I wanted to do them all at once. So I did 28 reels. It took me 45 minutes to write them all up, maybe an hour, because I put a couple bullet points in each. Then the guy came over, we filmed the reels in about 90 minutes. And that was including like 15 of them were in this room, and then 15 were out by the pool. And so now we're looking at about 2.5 hours to do 30 days of content. And the secret to them was the hook, the opening line. Because if you don't have a good opening line, if you're starting your reels by saying, "Hey guys, what's up?" as my friend Bedros does, and he somehow gets a lot of views. Most people do not get a lot of views when they start with, "Hey friends, what's up?" or "Hey, how you doing?" Because people are like, that's how they're starting this video. I'm on to the cat video. So you really got to have a great hook. So how does somebody write a great hook that gets thousands and thousands of people to continue watching?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it on the head, and I'll just kind of reiterate on it. Like you said, any sort of filler words or buffer in the start of the video is an instant swipe. Like if you actually put yourself in the viewer's shoes and you're watching content, and say you don't know Craig and you don't already like his content, and you're just some random dude who has no idea what he's about. If he starts off the video with, "Hey guys, wanted to come on here and share this with you," there's 4 seconds where, he was just talking about nothing.
Yeah, there's no redemption on 4
Right.
seconds. That's a forever in the internet, in the social media these days.
Yeah. So the goal is just to be very short. Like you can have the most complex idea ever that you're explaining in the video, but the first 3 to 5 seconds has to be short. And I think whether it's a polarizing video or not, a secret to having a really good hook is to invoke curiosity and or kind of like I disagree with this. So if Craig's hook is, "This is why morning routines suck," right? You can use that. You could use that for a story. Even if you're telling a story about you, the hook is just that you're going to get people who believe what you're saying and people who have a massive morning routine both watching. Or if it's, "This is how I made 10 grand in 10 minutes. That's going to invoke curiosity into people. And it's a thumb stopper, right? It's a pattern interrupt. "Oh, I want to know how to make 10 grand in 10 minutes. Why don't you show me how to do that?" So if you can invoke some sort of emotion and make it quick and maybe raise the tonality a little bit, that's the recipe for a good hook that's going to keep people watching.
Yeah. So the 3 reasons you should stop watching the NFL, that's pretty quick. People like, hey, and we post this on Sundays. So people are like watching the NFL while they're watching this, or they're about to watch the NFL, or they did watch the NFL. The other one, how I helped a fat guy run a marathon in 6 weeks. Okay. Like, even if I'm not fat and I don't want to run a marathon, it's almost as good as a cat video. Tell me more. And another one that I did recently that got about 45,000 views, which is a lot of views for me right now, is 3 things millionaires won't tell you about morning routines. It's a bit of a long hook, but that 3, what people won't tell you is pretty good. And, the 45 pieces of content, Kyle, those things can be used for email marketing, right? Like it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah, 100%. You can use this almost the same template as well. The hook is the subject line.
Right.
Exactly. You can definitely,
because you could have the greatest email content, but if your subject line is not good and doesn't get anybody to open it, you could have the cure for cancer inside, but no one's going to watch it. And so it's having that at the start that just gets somebody to hold on a little bit more until you get to the rest of it is so important. And then one thing that I learned from my years and years and years of writing emails, and from my marketing mentors who told me this as well, is that people would rather watch or learn content about what not to do than about what to do. So if you put out 2 different pieces of content, and one was the 5 foods never to eat, and the other was the 5 foods you must eat, you would get a much greater 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 times as many people consuming the what never to do content than what to do. And I don't know what it is about the human brain, whether it just seems like it's easier for us to not do something, therefore I'll watch that, or if it's more controversial. It gets people more fired up, or oftentimes, it's just more interesting to know what you shouldn't do than, oh God, here's what I got to go and do. So I have some very popular content about 5 things never to do, 3 things never to do in the morning, that type of stuff. Our most popular Facebook ad is 7 deadly morning sins. And so people really just, they'll get angry if one of their favorite things is on the list. And they'll also be like really happy if the things they hate are on the list. So that never to do approach is a really great hook.
Right. I think the thing that we've found when it comes to that is fear is more of a driving force than desire. So if it's 5 foods you should never eat, right? You're fearful. You're like, well, am I eating this food? Like, am I going to die at 40? Right. But if it's 5 food you must eat, that desire, it's not as strong as the fear of loss.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, man. We're coming up on time here. This has been one of the most fun podcasts I've ever done, because I'm learning a ton, and I think this is super valuable and super timely. We mentioned Alex Hormozi a couple of times, and I remember when you and I were having a consultation call, I basically said, after you explained how to use Instagram, how to use YouTube, how to use TikTok, you basically said, just do what Alex Hormozi is doing. And I said, is he doing anything wrong at all? And you basically said, no, he's doing everything right on each of those platforms. Is there anything that we haven't covered that he's doing? He's using different types of content. Like, he's using him speaking on stage, him on podcasts, and then him just speaking into the camera. So that gives like a lot of authority as well. But other than that, he's just using the systems that you talked about today, right?
Yeah, I would say the general concept is his stuff is very similar to what I teach, which was kind of gratifying whenever I started seeing him do stuff. And obviously he didn't get it from me, but it was just kind of like, oh wow, like we're kind of doing the same stuff. But yeah, you mentioned the stage in the podcast. I think there's 2 things about that. One is it's no extra effort on his end to sit down and record, right? So it's easier to just pull clips from it. And 2, it frames him as an authority, because anybody can sit in their living room and talk. Not everybody can be on a massive podcast or be on a stage in front of thousands of people and give a good presentation. Yeah. So I think unless the viewers are getting on stages, they probably won't have to worry about that. But yeah.
Okay. A couple other quick questions on calls to action. Should they be in every video? Should they be in every caption? And if they shouldn't be, how often should they be done? And what's a good call to action? And are there actual words that Instagram punishes you for using in calls to action?
Yeah. So a few things on this for something so short and seemingly kind of tedious. There actually is a lot that goes into it in terms of how often you're using them, right? And you're not going to do them in every single one, but I would say in most of your content, call it 75 to 80%, you want some sort of call to action. And that could just be words on the screen. So you might not actually be saying it, but it could pop up on screen to follow for more of whatever you're doing, or to comment a certain word, DM a certain word. Or you could just put it in the caption. So you have no spoken call to action, but follow for more of X or DM me this is just in the caption, or the more traditional way at the end of the video, you're speaking out your call to action. And I'm glad you asked the question about kind of censorship, because on Instagram and TikTok in particular, if you say the phrase link in bio, the video most likely will be throttled, because what TikTok doesn't want is people leaving their app, because they want people to spend as much time as possible inside of their application. So typically you have to find ways to say that a bit differently. So my favorite to use is check out my profile. Means the exact same thing. People do the exact same thing. And it sounds a bit less kind of salesy and pushy to just be like, check out my profile. Like, don't click the link in my bio.
Right.
So it's super organic, rolls off the tongue easy, and it doesn't get throttled by either platform. So that's what I'm doing most of the time.
Perfect. Last question before we tell people how they can hire you as I did, or just get a hold of you, is what the heck is coming for 2023? Like, this stuff is changing pretty quickly.
Right.
Do you know of, like, are there any things that like you would really bet a high percentage on that this is going to happen in the first few months of 2023, or like some wild card long shots where it's like, this could happen? What's on your mind there?
Yeah. In terms of content as a whole, if you're looking at it from a macro perspective, I think audio is on the rise, but we could probably have a whole podcast on that topic, so I won't get into it. I think audio.
What do you mean? What do you mean in particular?
Audio in terms of something like this podcast, audio book. I don't know if audio short form will ever make its rounds, but audio content where people can multitask. So you're washing the dishes. Okay, you can also listen to a podcast. You're on a run, whatever. But in terms of short form, in terms of the actual course of how the content is made, I think it's too hard to tell something like that, because that's obviously that's up to the consumers. But I will say this is the short form platforms, because typically social media goes in waves of like 5-ish years where stuff starts to kind of change. And we're still in kind of the first half of short form content being super popular. So when Instagram first came out, anybody could get a presence on Instagram just posting photos. And, that goes for every single content type. Now is the time to start, executing on your short form strategy, because there will be a day, and probably the near future, next few years, where the organic reach in content marketing and creating short form content will not be as high as it is today. So I would say if I could say one thing about the future of short form, it's get in right now. It's pretty urgent if you want to start getting views and followers without paying for ads.
Love it. Very, very helpful. Kyle, you and I just came to get to know one another because I think you were checking out some of my stuff. How did you hear about my content in the first place? Like, how did you stumble across my world?
That's a good question. I think probably the first time I stumbled across your stuff might have been the story that Jason Capital told about the napkin. I think I started checking you out then. I bought all your books, read all your books. And then also, fun fact for everybody listening, Craig is like one of the 5 people that I follow on Instagram. So
cool, man.
It's good stuff. But yeah, I think that was how I originally came across your stuff.
Nice. So Real Kyle Elliott on Instagram. So Real Kyle and Elliott, 2 L's, 2 T's, right?
Yep. And that's on all platforms.
Okay, perfect. And is, just have people send you a direct message if they want to learn how they can work from you, get some consulting from you?
Yeah. So 2 ways. Either you could just DM me the word short form on Instagram, or you can email me. That's Kyle Elliott Business @gmail. So the spelling, that, as Craig just said, 2 L's, 2 T's on the last name, Kyle Elliott Kyle Elliott Business @gmail.com. You can email me there if you prefer email, or you can just shoot me a DM on Instagram.
Perfect. And just a quick summary, like, I started on Instagram. I didn't have an iPhone until 2017. And then I started on Instagram that year, figured out how to make money because I realized that what I was doing in email marketing translated over into Instagram stories, and Instagram stories were just becoming popular at that time. I don't think they even had them much before that. So that was like Instagram 1.0. And then 2018, I just kind of continued that formula. And then 2019, the Instagram TV came out. So that was like Instagram 2.0. And now Instagram Reels are so popular. So it's kind of like Instagram 3.0. And then that's kind of where we are right now. And Kyle is the guy I've hired to guide me through Instagram 3.0, because what worked for me in 1.0 and 2.0 is not working for me anymore. And since we actually had a couple of good things that started getting us leads again just before we started working with Kyle, and now and it's become much more consistent and continuous. So he's your man if you're looking to get in on the game of short form content. So that's awesome. Follow him on Instagram and TikTok @Real Kyle Elliott, or hit him up on that Gmail address. Kyle, thanks so much for joining us today. It was super helpful. And I know we got a private training for my mastermind clients coming up soon. It's going to be really valuable. And I appreciate it, dude.
Absolutely, man. Anytime.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you on another episode of Early to Rise Radio very soon.